Good morning, all of you. Hope you all are fine. Today I will start the political science. After few holidays, I am starting this chapter, political science, gender, religion, and caste. Okay, fourth chapter. Let us begin with gender division. Now, gender division, male and female. This is a form of hierarchical social division seen everywhere. There is a great difference between the male and female. There is a division between male and female, but is rarely recognized in the study of the politics. The gender division tends to be understood as a natural and unchangeable. Now, there is a fixed work given to the gender, male and female. It is not possible to change anything. However, it is not based on biology but on social expectations and stereotypes. Public and private division. Now, what is a public and what is a private division? Boys and girls are brought up to believe that the main responsibility of the women in housework and bringing up a children. Now, main work of the women is to look after the home. To look after the home, not only look after the home, to look after to bringing up the children also. This is reflected in a sexual division of labor. Now it brings a great difference in the division of the work, the sexual division, the male and female. In most families, women do all work inside the home, such as cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, tailoring, looking after children, etc. Now many women are working at home, and all working at home, the women are doing many things like cooking food, washing clothes, tailoring, then looking after the children, and men do all the work outside. You know, in our family also it is divided. Men are going to do the work outside of the home. It is not that men cannot do housework. They simply think that it is for women to attend to these things. Not possible. It is not this that men cannot do the female work. All the work can be do with both. When these jobs are paid, for men are ready to take up these works. Now the men are waiting for the payment. If these works can be paid, whatever the work is done by the women, if it is a paid work, then they are ready to do this work. Most tailors or cooks in hotels are men. Now you have seen the men are in the hotels, they are working, and in the tailoring also they are working. So these are also the work for the women also, but they are working. Similarly, it is not that women do not work outside their home. Many nowadays women are going out of the home and they are doing the work. In villages, women fetch water, collect fuel, and work in the field. Now in a village, when you will go, you will see the women are working outside. They are collecting the woods, they are collecting the fuel, they are fetching the water, and many other things. In urban area, the city areas, poor women work as a domestic helper in middle class homes, while middle class women work in offices. In fact, the majority of the women do some sort of paid work in addition to domestic labor, but their work is not valued and does not get recognition. Now many work are there when the men and women are working, but they are not getting the payment, then that work is not recognized. The result of this division of labor is that although women constitute a half of the humanity, their role in a public life. Now women are generally working in this way that their whole life is playing a role in this public life. Earlier, only men were allowed to participate in the public affairs. Now in the beginning, men were allowed to attend all the public affairs, vote and contest for public offices. Gradually, the gender issue was raised in politics. Women in different parts of the world organized and agitated for equal rights. Now women are coming up and they want their rights, equal rights. There were agitation in different countries for the extension of the voting rights to women. These agitation demanded enhancing the political and legal status of the women and improving their educational and career opportunities. More radical women movements aimed at equality in personal and family life as well. Now these movements are called feminist movements. Now what are feminist movement? Here it's written the women's movement aimed at equality. The women are wanting the equal rights and in the family life also, and this is known as feminist. Political expression of gender division and political mobilization on these on this question. Help to improve the women's role in public life. Nowadays, women are contesting are great. They want to do the equal rights shoulder to shoulder to the men. Who know we know find women working as a scientist. Now you will see that women are becoming a great and they are working as a great field like scientists, doctors, engineers, lawyers, managers and college and university teachers, which were earlier not considered suitable for the women. Earlier the women were not working like this. Nowadays women you can see in all the fields like doctors, like engineers, scientists, managers, lawyers, teachers in universities, etc. In some parts of the world, for example in Scandinavian countries. Now some of the Scandinavian countries you will see how women are working. Sweden, Norway and Finland. The participation of women in public life is very high. Now if you will go in these Scandinavian countries, you will see the work of the women is more. The women are participating in more in this country like Sweden, Norway and Finland. Here the participation of the women is more. In the public life it is very high. In our country, women still lag much behind men despite some improvements since independence. Ours is still a male dominated. Our country is a male dominated, always given a preference to the male. That is known as patriarchal society. Here we can say this is a patriarchal society. Women face disadvantage, discrimination. Now women are facing a lot of this discrimination due to this patriarchal society. Women having a discrimination and oppression in various ways. Now number one, here it's given the literacy rates among the women is only 54% compared with 76% among the men. In our country, the literacy, the women are getting education less in compared to men. Similarly, a smaller proportion of girl students go to a higher studies. When we look at the school results, girls perform as well as boys. Now in a board exams also you will see nowadays, but here it's different. Difference is that girls are getting more marks in compared to boys, but they drop out because parents prefer to spend their resource for their boys education rather than spending equally on their sons and daughters. No wonder the proportion of the women among the highly paid and valued jobs is still very small. On an average, an Indian woman works 1 hour more than average of men every. Now our women are working 1 hour more in compared to men. Yet much of her work is not paid and therefore often not valued. But whatever the women are working in our country, they are not paid. Some of the time they are working as without a pay. The third is the Equal Wages Act provides that equal wages should be paid to equal work. Now here it is given that men and women both are working, but it should be equal. The wages, the money, whatever they are getting, the salary, it should be equal. However, in almost all the areas of the work, from sports and cinemas to factories and fields, women are paid less than men, and even when both do exactly the same work. So here it is written, however, almost in all of the areas, from sports and cinemas and factories and fields, women are paid less. Then fourth is given, in many parts of India, parents prefer to have son and find ways to have the girl child aborted before she is born. So in our country, in our family, here the more preference is given to the boy child. They want a boy child in compared to girl. Such sex selective abortion led to a decline to a child sex ratio, number of the girl children per 1,000 boys in the country to merely 927. As the map shows, in the ratio has fallen below 850 or 800 even in some places. So the ratio has given, showing that how the more preference is given to the boy child in compared to girl child. There are reports of various kinds of harassment. Now in a society there are a lot of harassment with the women, and exploitation and violence against the women. Lot of exploitation, lot of harassment in the society nowadays we can see in the society regarding all the women. Urban areas have become particularly unsafe for women. Urban areas are not safe for the women, those who are working. They are not safe even within their own home from beating, harassment and other forms of domestic violence. Now women are not safe even at their home, also in the society also they are very harassed and in some of the domestic violence. So here it is given. Now here it's given the next one, women's political representation. All this is well known, yet issues related to the women's well-being or otherwise are not given adequate attention. This has led many feminist and women's movements to the conclusion that unless women control power, their problems will not get adequate attention. One way to ensure this is to have more women as elected representation. Now here it is given in a political field. Women representation should be more. Nowadays women are also taking a more number seats in the political field. In India, the proportion of the women in legislature has been very low. You can see some of the women are participating, but the seats are very less. For example, the percentage of the elected women members in Lok Sabha has never reached even 10% of its total strength. In a Lok Sabha, the number of seats are very less. Women participation is very less. Their share in the state assemblies is less than 5%. In this respect, India is among the bottom group of nations in the world. India is behind the averages for several developing countries of Africa and Latin America. In the government, cabinets are largely all male. Now if you will see, the cabinet members in the government is more. It's a big, only with the male. Even with when a woman becomes a chief minister or a prime minister, if the cabinet members are more with the male, not by the female. If the female is a prime minister or a chief minister, then in that case also you can see the women representation is less. One way to solve this problem is to make it legally binding to have a fair proportion of women is in the elected bodies. This is what the Panchayati Raj has done in India. Now in Panchayati Raj also it is seen 1/3 of the seats in local government bodies, in panchayats and municipalities, 1/3 participation. 1/3 of the participation of women are taking part in panchayats, and the municipalities are now reserved for women, and that is very less, 1/3 participation. Now there are more than 10 lakh elected women representation in rural and urban local bodies. 10 lakh women are taking part in local as well as rural. Women's organization and activities have been demanding a similar reservation of at least 1/3 of the seats in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies for women. Now government is asking for the seats for the women, but still we can see the women representation participation is very less. A bill with this proposal has been pending before the parliament for more than a decade, but there is no consensus over this among all the political parties. The bill has not been passed. Gender division is an example that some form of social division needs to be expressed in politics. This also shows that disadvantaged groups to benefit when social division become a political issues. Do you think the women could have made the gains we noted above if their unequal treatment was not raised in the political domain? Nowadays we can see a lot of differences and the seats are not being there. So here it's given, and now next day I will start the religion, communalism and politics.